Hello there and welcome Virtual Space Hero community to another Virtual Space Hero LinkedIn Live about hybrid and virtual work. Today we pick up on a topic that I'm really super excited of to have one of the thought leaders in Europe with me on the stage, because we go beyond discussing new work. We go beyond thinking just about our organizations themselves. We talk also about new work that needs a new economy. And with that, I'm super excited to already directly jump into the conversation and welcome on my stage here today, connecting from Germany, Markus Väth from Human Fee. Here he is. Hi, Markus.
Hi, Barbara. Honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for making space in your calendar to join us today to talk about new work and new economy. And also just directly, let's not make it a secret. I know that you just recently published an amazing book about the topic, right, Markus?
Yes, I published the book in German. It's Musterwechsel or Pattern Change in English, and it's had also a neat cover, which you can see here.
Nice.
and it's out since the beginning of February.
Fantastic, fantastic. Markus, you and Human Fee, let us know, what does Human Fee mean and what is your work about in the area of new work to start with?
Human Fi, as we call ourselves and as we call our company, is about to humanize everything what's about in the economy or in companies, because we think that the human value or the contribution of people in the economy is underrated. And we want to challenge the old paradigms. For example, when we talk about added value, it's not only about financial statements, it's not about only products, it's about people. And people are the source of every added value in the companies and within the economy. And so we are some kind of ambassadors for this new thinking, for this pattern change, so to speak.
Absolutely. And Markus, you indeed with Human Fi that dear God, I remember that in the first conversation we had, you said like, it's not Human Fi as many say, but it's Human Fi. And I thought it was vice versa. Oh, madre de Dios.
Oh, no, you're not the first and you will be not the last. I assure you.
I should know because you told me, but it's of course like you think don't mess it up and you exactly mess it up, right? Okay. Markus, but you're one of the pioneers. When did you start to talk and work with the topic new work, new ways of working?
I actually started working on this kind of topic around 2005 when I left an old company, but dive deeper into this around 2011 and 2016. I published my first book on that topic. It was my third book after all, but my first book on the new work. And then I opened up with two other colleagues, Anja and Arthur, and we founded HumanFi. And as a group, we now try to bring this thought of new work, the sense of new work, into a broader community and to, let's say, the economic landscape in the German-speaking countries as a whole.
Absolutely, and that's fantastic. We also in Austria, there are many people who started working, I think, with new ways of working, with the topic of new work or new ways of working around 10 years ago. And I was really happy to be involved in the community as a researcher at that time. You, Markus, what is, and you already mentioned, Human Fi is about the human in the center. If you want to define new work to somebody totally new to the topic, how would you define that? What is your understanding of new work?
Actually, it has two important parts. The first part is the developer of new work, Friedrich Bergmann, always said, new work, it's about the work you really, really want. It's not about fun, and it's not about that every day has to be a shiny kind of thing, but you need to have the possibility to do a work that's aligned to your strengths and the things you need. And that's a very personal thing. It's not a business thing. It's a personal thing which you have developed over a long period of time. That's the personal part of new work. The so to say, business or economic part of new work is that you have to follow 5 principles. That's freedom, that's responsibility, That's purpose, that's learning, and that's social responsibility. And we try to activate those principles when we work with companies, so that they ask themselves, what can we do to let the freedom flourish, to make experiments, to have a new culture of making mistakes, where we can make mistakes and learn from them, where we can deal on a new level with responsibility, with purpose on a personnel and on a company scale, where we can do connected, also virtual learning, and where is our position when it comes to social responsibility within the company, but also to our stakeholders outside, in the landscape of my community, my city, and other stakeholders.
Fantastic. I just love that. Thanks a lot for bringing that up, those 5 principles that you're following. Super relevant. When you think now about all the discussion that is going on, we talk a lot about hybrid work now. New work and hybrid work, for you, is it the same or is it something different?
Hybrid work and new work doesn't operate on the same level. For example, I often have discussions when somebody says to me, "Oh, Markus, the digitalization and the Corona epidemic really gave a boost to new work." And so, no, not that. It's the digitalized work that's being boosted. But it maybe you use the digital work or hybrid work to boost these 5 principles. But for example, when you have a team now working remote, but the leader of the team is still running on command and control and documenting, you have a new technology installed, but you don't have a new thinking or a new mindset installed. So you have the digitalization, you have hybrid work, but you don't have new work. So I think in our modern working times, hybrid work and digitalization is the foundation, but you can work it up to new work, but it's not. It can be, but maybe not.
I think it's interesting because I'm following some discussions on LinkedIn about virtual work culture or remote work culture, most of them, or hybrid work culture, and many of them, I do believe that they have an understanding that what you say that new work is from a culture point of view, because it's all about culture, right? What new work from a culture point of view is what they already assume that hybrid work as well is. I think this is also something in terms of terminology. It's a lot of still misunderstandings or different views on what the terms mean. For me, for example, I was always, as a researcher, using new ways of working, or in German even, because we were working together with a platform that was called Das neue Arbeiten, the new working. And I was using that terminology, or new ways of working. I was never talking about hybrid work, even though, of course, new ways of working that includes virtual work, but it has to do with a change of mindset, with a change of culture, with a change of how we operate and how we see us as organizations in the context of the economy, society, and so on and so forth, right?
On the one hand, new work is right now being transformed into some kind of container word. Yeah, you can put anything in it like you want. We working remote, that's new work. We have a fancy furniture, that's new work. We have a new leadership structure, that's new work. Okay, on the one hand, you have this container wording, but on the other hand, for me, it's important that new work is being developed as an idea and not an ideology. Let me explain that. In my perception, some people from the new work field, they want to decide what is right when it comes to new work and what is wrong. So, in my opinion, some people are on the way to some kind of new work ideology. That's not my kind of thinking. I told you the 5 principles, and we stick to these 5 principles. But we understand ourselves as coaches. We make an offer to think about something. So, and if you can deal with that, and if you say that's okay for me, I want to work with that. That's okay for us. but we are no evangelists. And when it comes to the work, I think we have to handle that the field is now widespread and the word is out in the open, and something this and this and this, and it's room and space for everything. And when I want to send one message today is your work has to stay an idea and not transform into an ideology.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing your point on that. Let's jump now into the topic, also into your book, because you're talking about new work needs a new economy. So if you think about what do you say are the current problems that prevail in our society and in our organizations, and what do organizations do to counter them, to encounter them?
When we try to zoom in into how organizations are built and how they work, I have identified two principles, apart from the five I told you earlier. You know, I'm a principled man. It's about responsibility and trust. You know, that's the main mechanisms within a company, and either it's there or not. And when you have responsibility, there's also trust. But and trust, there's responsibility, and either you have the two or you have not the two. And in my opinion, successful companies are built around responsibility and trust. But to have that in place, you need to appreciate the psychology and what needs and what people need on a higher level than it is done today. Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
For
What is that
example,
higher level?
for example, we had our first wave of optimization that was the process optimization, you know, business transformation and business process optimization and so on. And we are very good at that. That was in the late 80s, early 90s and so on. That was the first wave of optimization. The second wave of optimization was we optimize the unit itself. We do training, coaching, we give courses, videos, and so on. So now we are within the third wave of optimization, and we have to optimize the collaboration of people. I give you an example. You work at your desk, at your workplace, and you do a good work, and then you have a meeting, and the meeting is rubbish. It has no results. It's awful. It's 2 hours. It's time you have invested better, and it's the time you collaborate with other people is often considered as some kind of garbage byproduct to your individual work. But in an economy where we have fewer resources, fewer people, fewer innovations, a harder economic landscape, you have to professionalize and optimize the collaboration. And for that, you need to know what do humans need to work together. And this knowledge and this training is highly underdeveloped in almost every company we see. And that's dramatic, because what happens, the people in the companies, they do not say, oh, maybe today I have a hard time, but tomorrow is better. No, this negative experience accumulate, and these people drop out of the company. And because we now have the market that they can do this, and we have to stop that, not only for the benefit of the people, but also for the benefit of the companies in which these people work.
And particularly, we have seen a discussion now, the job market has widened up globally, and people are taking up on that. The job requests for remote jobs, just because they were not happy in their current organizations, maybe they were working in a small town, but now, even though working or living in a small town, the job market can be global. And so the war for talents and also the struggles that organizations are facing are really, really very different.
Just another short example for that thought. in the pandemic in Germany, everyone clapped for the people in the supermarket, and they were the heroes, and they had the essential jobs. Okay, and the supermarkets made billions of profit. So, in the year 2020, the salary of these people working in the supermarkets, at the counter, at the desk, and so on, it lowered by 60 euro. The supermarkets made the profits, but the salary dumped it down a little bit. So,
Yeah.
and that's not in the sense of a modern economy, which is founded on the appreciation of really human value. You know, that's like the social justice, or a just salary you have to earn. At least it should not go down when the profits go up. Yeah, it's it's these simple things that go wrong in our economy, and which we strive also in our thoughts about new work, and how economy and how organizations as an economy are part of society.
And also, there is one point. One of the principles that you mentioned out is social responsibility. So, how is this topic? How do you see is this going on in organizations, particularly also now after 2 years of pandemic, as they are paying less, in some industries, to their employees who worked sometimes even harder during the pandemic and under like really bad circumstances? What happened to social responsibility after like 2 years of pandemic? Do you see there any change?
What I see is that for especially bigger companies with ESG criteria and so on, they try to think in that direction, on how could we be more economic or social, or on the government theme. But on the other hand, what really strikes me is when I do workshops with people on these 5 principles, and we come to the principle of social responsibility. Some workshop teams, they don't, as I put it that way, they don't look behind the company border. Social responsibility is a responsibility inbound, you know, and what's outside and what's in the city, and so on, that's not so important. So in my opinion, when we work with companies on this social responsibility or on this ESG thought, we often have to deal with an obvious topic, but it's only handled either superficially or inbound. Maybe that will change in 2 years, 5 years, 8 years, but I think this thought of ESG or of social responsibility is not as hard and as not grounded as it could be.
Absolutely. And I'm just thinking about another example. We are running a project with three other colleagues. We have four, that is called the Global Case Study Challenge, where we have 600 students from cluster group. They are following us in a 2-month learning journey, and they work on case studies. I'm not going into details, but what we did, one of our colleagues, Professor Anna Zinenko, she's based in Barcelona. She's a sustainability professor. And when we said that we want to focus on SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, or sustainability in our program, she said, like, well, I'm only doing that if we do it properly. Because particularly in higher education, as to institutions as well, what is happening? SDG, or sustainability, is a hot topic, and governments sometimes accreditation institutions, they sort of request it. What institutions do, universities do, they implement a sustainability course. Sometimes it's elective even, so those who have time, they go to the sustainability course, but they do not think really, what you were saying, to ground it throughout all the courses, because being sustainability, one course in a bachelor program or in a master's program, or one elective course, that doesn't sort of really help. Sustainability must be a train of thought throughout all the courses, and then it is grounded.
What's very interesting to me is that now the pressure comes from society itself. That's I call this the turn from the I from the me concentrated economy to a we concentrated economy. We have now communities like Fridays for Future, or in Germany the Genossenschaften. It's a kind of organization that's that belongs to the employees working there, and we have several groups in society that now put pressure on the companies and ask them, where's your social responsibility? Where's your ecological responsibility? And interestingly, it's not single influencers putting up this pressure. It's collectives, it's communities which share around a certain cause and put the pressure on the companies. And that's not a modern theme. It had always been that political groups or social groups had put pressure, but through the digitalization and through social media, it has now a much more velocity and pressure moment than in the pre-digital era.
That's interesting. I think I need to talk to university representatives to understand whether that pressure is also coming from students. So I don't know, as I'm not involved as a professor anymore, I don't know whether students are requesting that sustainability becomes like a common pattern throughout all the courses, but maybe that's going to happen. So fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing on that. Markus, you already said you're a man of principles, and that's also something that you talk about in your book. So what does it mean to be based on principles instead of being a rule-based organization?
Yeah, maybe that's also a specialized topic in Germany here. We love rules. We love rules for everything. And I think 70% of all literature about taxes worldwide is German literature. And what do I mean? I'll give you a little example. We have a salespeople who has to go with a customer to a fair in another city. So what should be the case that the customer and the salespeople go into the same hotel and bond together, have a breakfast together, and really share their thoughts, so that the customer really, that they can build some trust. But what's the rule? The rule is the customer gets the expensive hotel, and the salespeople get the cheap hotel on the other side of town. So they fulfill the rule of the travel expenses. Yeah, they can do a check here, but the principle would be bond with your customer. So we have now the rule is fulfilled, but what's not fulfilled is the principle of doing good with the customer. So and a principle triggers your personal responsibility. A principle is like the road, which is it has a border to the left and to the right, but it doesn't tell you walk exactly on that line and or walk exactly. Every principle triggers your personal responsibility. It's like growing inside in your job, and of course there will always be parts where we need exact rules and measures and specimens and so on. But what I'm in favor of doing principles instead of rules whenever it is possible in a company.
And I think it's also what I always thought about is that having like a principle and not a rule requires our employees, our team members, to really also bring in their thoughts, bring themselves
Exactly.
in, and just follow. And the problem is, if we just have followers that are following rules, they will never look beyond what could be happening, right?
Always following rules is like taking always the elevator instead of the stairs. You always have the convenient solution, which is every time the same, but it doesn't help you develop your muscles or your lungs or some kind of that.
Or maybe meet somebody else who's also taking the stairs, like the CFO, becoming a big buddy with him. or him or her.
Or meeting anyone else interesting.
Very good point, got it. Markus, in the book also you talk about, and when we talk about new work and new economy, the concept of value creation. So you're also mentioning that this is changing. What does it have to do with new work, and how do you talk about that?
Um, it's it's being part of what I said in the beginning. In my opinion, the people working in the company are the source of any added value that's being created. So I use three kinds of added value. The last one is the financial value, which everybody knows and every company is keen about. But good financial uh, uh, statements or good financial figures are the aim of a company. It's not the purpose of the company. That's a huge difference. So the last added value is the financial. In the middle, we have the business value through the products and the services and the innovations. And every guy in every company understands that. Okay, but the first is the people value or the cultural value. And you have to work on the cultural value because even in a world of digitalization and of artificial intelligence and so on, you will always have to rely on the added value which is directly created by the people, by their collaboration, by their creativity, by their critical thinking. So what we do is we use like a torchlight, and we light into the corner where the cultural value lies, and there's always dust and cobwebs and so on. And so look at that. That is your a trunk of um, what's the word, where the pirates hide their gold. Yeah, no. So, so,
The
so, so
treasure, that's a treasure.
the treasure chest. Yes, look there. That's a treasure chest. No, and first you have to have this people value. Then you can create your business value, and then you have this financial value. So, and we try to use these three values to communicate about the value people have in companies and in the economy itself.
Fantastic. Love that. And how is that going? Because I think sometimes organizations or sometimes managers or also employees are looking for like an easy solution, but I think that you're taking them on a journey to dive into like their treasures that might be still hidden in the corner. So how do they take up on that? Is it something that they of course appreciate at the end, but does it take some time, or is it very obvious to them when you start already the workshop?
I think one of the most important parts about economy itself is that money is the the principle. You know, Max Weber, the great sociologist, has written 100 years ago that the big question in economy is there a payment or is there no payment? If there's a payment, that's economy. So, and you can't. For me, it's absolutely okay. Then some manager or some leader says, "What's in for me? I have to pay for that. What's my return?" So, and a manager or a company is open for such ideas when they can see a return on the investment. And now, only now is the time when working with people and for the benefit of people is not only a nice to have topic, it's a must have topic. Because otherwise, people will go, there will be no innovations, collaborations will be lousy, your business model maybe not be there in the future. And many leaders and managers now are open for the question, how important are my employees as humans and not only as their functions of their work? So
Fantastic point. So demonstrating the return always opens up for new content, and also changing behavior. Marcus, I have just one last question. It was an inspirational conversation already. The last one also has to do with the meaning. The one thing that you also mentioned, one of the principles, and you're writing in your book about that we need fewer exploitation jobs and more meaningful jobs with a clear employee focus. If you say meaning, we do know that there are jobs like knowledge worker jobs that very often by default to some extent might seem to have more meaning than others. How do you define meaning if you work with organizations, and how do you help and support those who might have a job in the chain of command, to say so, that is might be at the lower part? How do you help them to find their meaning?
Um, when you search as a person for meaning in a job or meaning in life, it's your personal business. When you raise the question of meaning within a company, then a meaningful job is always meaningful for others. You have to make a difference. Everybody wants to make a difference. And when somebody makes a job who does not make a difference, and he recognizes that it maybe is not a meaningful job within the economic framework. It could be a very meaningful job for you personally, but for in the end, every activity within an organization must result in a contribution to the added value. So, and this differentiation is very important to me, because sometimes new work people say a meaningful job is the only criteria is it's meaningful to me, and I say yes, and I help people in the last 15 years to find their personal meaning, but within a company, your personal meaning has to fit to the organizational added value which is being produced, and you have to lay that over, and maybe this it fits. I hope it fits, but a meaningful job in a company has always be meaningful also for others.
Marcus, I love that. And to be very frank here, if I think about the studies that I was conducting, when we talk about purpose, meaning, fulfillment, very often in the studies and the skills also in my article, study skills, it's always about making it meaningful for me. But I think both of them connect, because very
Yes.
often, if I'm working not only with knowledge workers, because sometimes it's easier to explain to somebody who is a knowledge worker what the meaning could be, or if they are looking for a meaning, sometimes it's easier for them to find the meaning. And if we think about blue collar workers, sometimes they perceive, or they struggle to find meaning for them. But I'm just thinking now, the eye opener for me now is the my meaningful job adding value to my organization, because every job is sort of changing something. If I'm sort of cleaning the street, it was dirty, then it's clean, right? So that's the added value, and that could be also always the added value for me, because that meaning could be the trigger for my internal meaning fulfillment.
And yeah,
Or am I wrong? Well, please correct me if I'm
no,
wrong.
no, I wanna do it that way. It does not have to play a role if that human he sees himself as a new worker or a meaningful job or so. I think the critical question is this person respected for their job? And if I show respect to the job, either it's a knowledge worker, or it's the garbage man, or some other. I think one of the pattern changes which we have to learn is that we have to have respect for every job which is being done because every job, when it's not a bullshit job, it's also done for us, not only for the company, not only for oneself, but also for society. And that is a little part of the glue that holds us all together.
Markus, and I think this is really something fantastic that we're going to end with. So respect all the jobs that are there and respect also the contributions of each and every one to the vision within your company, within your team. Markus, I loved it. I got a lot of inspirational thoughts and some new ideas also on how to use those thoughts in my work as well. Again, show us your book. We don't want to miss that out, but we're also going I know it is. I showed when I publish my books, I always want to show that around all the time. Come on, Paradigm Shifts from Markus Väth. It's available on Amazon. We're going to share the link in the show notes. Thanks again, Markus, for being here on the Virtual Space Hero LinkedIn live stage. Thank you very much, and have a lovely evening for you after a day of gardening work. I know.
Yeah.
That was great.
Thank you, Barbara. It was a pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much, everyone, for participating. We got a few questions beforehand also that I built into our conversation. And with that, I'm leaving you also to your morning, afternoon, or evening. Become a virtual space hero. Don't forget about diving into the conversation also, and check out, if you are a German speaker or German reader, check out also Markus' publication. And stay tuned. Next week, we are going to continue our conversation about hybrid and new ways of working. With that, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.